She stood in the hallway, sterile, but with unaffordable art, and knocked on a plain closet door with a cow magnet stuck to its front. "It's me, Ardie. Can I come in?" She waited, listening, until she heard a rustling behind the door. The legally mandated lock flipped out of place. Ardie ducked into the small room and latched the door behind her. Grace was already settling back onto the leather sofa, her silk blouse hitched cockeyed over 2 plastic cones fastened to her breasts. Ardie surveyed the room. A mini-fridge, the beat-up sofa on which Grace sat, a small television set playing Ellen. Outside, she could hear voices, quick steps, phones being answered and copies being made. She frowned approvingly. "It's like your own little hideout in here." Grace reached for the dial of the breast pump, and it began its methodical, mechanical whir. "Or like my own little tomb," she said lightly. Grace's dark sense of humor always managed to catch Ardie off guard. From the outside, Grace seemed so uncomplicated. She had teased, bleached blonde hair, was an active member of the Tri Delta Alumni Club, and attended church at Preston Hollow Presbyterian with her tall, dark, and checkered shirt-wearing husband, Liam. They'd been on the personal invite list to the opening of the George W. Bush Presidential Library, and identified as compassionate conservatives, which Ardie took to mean that they wanted gay people to get married, but preferred to pay as little in taxes as possible. Also, they owned at least 1 handgun in a lock safe that they kept on a garment shelf in Grace's walk-in closet, and the fact that Ardie liked Grace in spite of all that said something. "How much should babies eat anyway? I am always pumping. I mean, fuck, Ardie, look at me. I'm watching Ellen during the day." Grace didn't usually say fuck. Ardie remembered how long the days felt when her son, Michael, had slept only a few hours at a time. Her entire body had felt heavy and dirty, as if she had a thin layer of grime over her whole body, like unbrushed teeth. She rummaged through her tote bag and pulled out 2 sweaty cans of LaCroix. She handed one to Grace and dropped down on the floor in front of the couch. Ardie could do things like sit on floors at work because, and she'd be the first one to admit this, she had opted out. Years ago, actually. She slept in instead of spending an extra hour in the morning on hair and makeup. She went shopping almost never. She didn't spend a minute of her precious time in Pilates. It was the most liberating thing she'd ever done. She glanced down at her phone. Still nothing. "So, apparently," Ardie said, "Vancoli died. At home this morning when he was getting ready for work." She delivered the news matter-of-factly. Ardie didn't know another way to deliver news. It was always, "My mother has cancer," or "Tony and I are getting a divorce." "What? How?" Grace dropped the tubes she'd been busy trying to reinsert into the funnel-like contraptions poking out of her nursing bra. "He had a heart attack. His wife found him in the bathroom." Ardie propped her elbows on her knees, staring up at Grace. "I just found out." Ardie had met the company's CEO, Desmond Bancoli, only once. A handshake in the elevator, because he'd made a point to meet every person who worked in his building, down to the cleaning staff, at least once. His teeth were very white. He was smaller than she thought he'd be, with bird-like wrists peeking out underneath his suit jacket. "I'm hiding, by the way," Ardie said, and before Grace could ask, "From Ames. He keeps asking where Sloane is." I told him she was probably out for lunch. He said that he hadn't approved her leaving for lunch today. I said she's the senior vice president of North American Legal Affairs and she doesn't need his approval to go to lunch and— "You said that to him?" Grace sat up. Sloane was their friend, but also technically their boss, which made Ames their boss's boss. "Of course I didn't really say that to him. Are you crazy?" "Oh," Grace said, blinking. She toyed with the small diamond cross dangling from her necklace. The electric whir of her pump counted off time between.